So what are you working on the moment? Let's get the plugs out of the way first and foremost, Steve.
Oh yeah. Right now I'm working on some TV commercial stuff, but that's like a day-to-day thing that comes and goes. But yeah, there's a new Longwave live record, which you have asked, we talked about that. There's a Harvard of the South record that is me and a couple of Blue October guys, band called Blue October. And that record has been finished for a number of years, but we never had a good time to put it out. Now seems like a pretty good time because we're not going to do any shows about it, at least right away, and just kind of get the music out there. And then there's a new Scout song comes out tomorrow. Band Scout I played guitar in a long time ago. It's called The Sun Will Shine, and it's in a little movie called Millennium Bugs that'll be out. They're doing some festival stuff with it. So that song's coming out. And then there's a Hurricane Bells EP that I don't think I told you about. That
no, for Japan only, was it?
Hurricane Bells is my band after and now before, again in the middle period of Longwave time, and had the Twilight Song connection, and it's mostly a studio project, but we did do India and Japan, US tours, and for a while I really was focused on it, and we did this EP that came out in Japan when we went and played over there, but never came out here. And I was just waiting for the right opportunity to put it out, and the opportunity never came. And at some point earlier this year, I listened to it again, and I thought, I got to get this out. I really like this. And so that'll be coming out. I got to get a little plan together for that, but that'll be coming out soon. It's got Albert from The Strokes playing guitar on one song. It's got Ashen, the singer from Scout, singing on one song. So yeah, the rest of this year is just a bunch of getting music out and making way for the next bunch.
You're actually doing it. You're just a tiny bit more prolific than Van Halen has been over the last.
No, I don't know. Well, it depends on which period of Van Halen, because the first couple of years they were extremely prolific. In recent times, not so much.
Yeah, 78 to 84, nonstop music output, and of course it slowed down somewhere in the 90s, maybe around Balance. But I know your gateway into Kiss. What was your gateway into liking Van
Halen? The guitar. I mean, I'm a guitar player, so it was Eddie Van Halen, like anybody else. I think I probably heard. I'm a little bit younger than, I wasn't listening when the record came out. The first record came out. I say the record. I'm sorry. That's the first Van Halen
one.
Yeah, that's the record for a guitar player. So I think I probably heard the songs on classic rock radio and wanted to play the guitar along with them. And it wasn't necessarily the guitar solos, but it was like playing along with You Really Got Me. And I didn't even know that was a cover song. I just heard it. And in the beginning, playing guitar was relatively easy enough to play that riff. And so I could play along with it. And even if I couldn't nail the solos, I could still have fun playing along with that. Or then, Running with the Devil, Ain't Talking About Love. These are all they're not extremely difficult songs to play in a basic way. He plays them obviously in a very cool and awesome way. But so yeah, I would play upstairs in my attic of my house, playing guitar along with that first record, and eventually trying the solo for Ain't Talking About Love, and then eventually trying the solo for something else, or putting your hand over here to do the finger tapping, and then it's a slippery slope, and then you're like, well, what else do they have that they put out? And then you're on to Van Halen 2, and I think the record that really did it for me was Fair Warning. All these records I heard kind of at the same time. I wasn't around when they came out in order. I was around, but I was too young. So, but Fair Warning for a guitar player also had Unchained, and just was raw and mean sounding. And I guess that really attracted me. But yeah, all of that, it was like this raw, mean sound. And on top was this dude that was starting a party, So I was in. I was 12 years old. I was like, I want to go to this party. Listen to that guitar player.
So you liked both the Sammy and Dave years. I'm not going to ask about the Gary Cherone years, but you liked both Dave and Sammy's Van Halen years? Yeah,
I did. But I, like a lot of people, probably consider them to be two different bands.
Mm-hmm.
The Hagar stuff was almost like Journey. That's not hopefully not doesn't sound like a slag on them or something. And I liked a lot of Journey stuff too. My mom would listen to the Journey, you know, that also sounds like a slag. My mom likes it, but I loved the melodies on the Hagar stuff. I loved When It's Love. I listened again and it was like, I don't care. This is a little bit, you know, light with an L-I-T-E. I like the melody. I like the craft of it, the construction of the song. The music is great. Not as raw or cool as the Dave stuff, but if it was a different band with a different name, you'd be like, yeah, I'd love to hear these songs in a open amphitheater in the summertime. Like perfect music for that.
Well said.
Yeah, that's to me it was a different band.
And then how deep do you go when it comes to Dave's catalog? There's kind of three.
Solo Dave?
Solo Dave. There's the people who know, yeah, Just a Gigolo, California Girls. There's that. Then the next layer is, you know, Yankee Rose and Stand Up and all that. And then there's the people who just know everything, which is such rare company. You know, I can't tell you the track listing of Your Filthy Little Mouth or anything like that.
Oh, for shame. I would guess you had the Spanish version of that record.
You know what? I was bidding on, because it's a thing that comes up a lot on this podcast and in a lot of my interviews, the album that he did in Spanish, Sonrisa Salvaje. I did actually have to translate Spanish for somebody to supermarket yesterday, which is kind of funny. But
nice.
I was bidding on the Japanese edition of it on eBay last week, because you got to think about that. Why did that album come out in Japan? Why did a Spanish language David Lee Roth album, Warner Brothers went, this is something that people are going to buy? I don't know.
Yeah, that's bizarre. No, so I know. So when I first started paying attention, David Lee Roth, well, Just Like Paradise and Skyscraper was out, and then A Little Ain't Enough came out, and Jason Becker was playing guitar on that. And again, I come from a guitar player perspective, and the guitar playing again on A Little Ain't Enough was incredible. From like that, you know, I'm at that time I was kind of coming out, you know, like starts with Eddie Van Halen, gets into maybe Steve Vai-ish kind of territory, and then my interest went to like Metallica and harder music at that point. So somewhere around that time was when A Little Ain't Enough came out, and I was more interested in the sound. But what's the single off that? I like the single off that A Little Ain't Enough record, the lead single. I don't remember what it is.
A Little Ain't Enough is it? It's not Stand Up. It's because Stand Up is on Skyscraper. It's I'm probably gonna have to edit this part out because that.
Hold on, I can look it up. Hold on, let's see. I'm on my laptop.
I think it's the title track, A Little Ain't Enough, because that has.
I think you're right too. Hold on, let's see.
A great music video.
You're right. It's A Little Ain't Enough. The title cut.
It does get fuzzy after the Skyscraper album, because he did some videos that even diehard Dave fans have not seen, like that are so deep cut that I don't think they're not on the Warner Brothers official YouTube thing. That somebody like taped it from VH1 Classic at 3 a.m, and you see the logo at the bottom of the screen. There's a few of those.
Right. Well, yeah, so I know that, and I know Skyscraper, and I think Yankee Rose has got to be one of the best 80s rock tracks, you know. But yeah, I guess I get just more of the singles later on for me with David Lee Roth.
That makes sense. Do you have, present company excluded, do you have other people in your life that like the David Lee Roth solo catalog? Or is it just, no. You didn't need to hesitate on that one.
No, I mean, I have two friends in particular that I'm thinking of that's a bit like, we email back and forth too, and sometimes there's crossover between the emails you and I get on and them, and they would be down, but it's not specifically about David Lee Roth or Van Halen. It's just a general like late 80s fixation.
That makes sense. Now, people who follow your catalog personally, they may not know that you have the Van Halen influence or the Metallica influence, because everything's so guitar pedal oriented. the lyrics are kind of like the opposite of anything David Lee Roth would ever sing in all the stuff that you do.
I wish I could. I wouldn't be able to get away. I can't. It's like putting on a pair of spandex pants. I can't pull it off. I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't.
Well, where I'm going with that is it that you started off with the Van Halen into Metallica thing, and then you went into the shoegaze, or did you always like everything?
Oh no, it's the difference between being a guitar player and being a guy who writes songs and eventually started a band to play those songs. So at that point, it's like a different part of your brain, or you're coming from a different place where like that the kind of guitar playing that I would love on a Van Halen record wouldn't be appropriate to songs that I wrote. And so you had to learn to play the guitar more in support of those songs. And so, yeah, at some point, went from Metallica and Megadeth and that to like, I joined the band and the singer said, listen to this REM record. Why is Peter Buck playing only 2 notes on that guitar solo? Like, do you think he can't play more than 2 notes? Like, no. Why is he only playing 2 notes? And then you start thinking, right, maybe it sounds better than playing, in the middle of, I don't know, Fall on Me or something. So yeah, it's just evolution, I suppose, and being a songwriter that changed. But that doesn't mean that the guitar part of my brain still doesn't love it. And just as I still put on at the studio here if I need like an ear break, or I'm a little stressed, or the timeline is happening, I got to get things done, and I get it done. Every once in a while, I'll put on Hot for Teacher, the video, and It's like, God damn, that's a great video. It's a great song. It just makes everything feel so good. So yeah, I guess you can't get far away from your roots.
That song, to me, if somebody says, what's your favorite song of all time? I might say Hot for Teacher, because
it's killer.
It's got everything that you'd want in a song. So there's a chorus, there's a solo, there's humor, there's an upbeat tempo, there's more than one genre to it. When you just hear it and you go, that's a song. David Lee Roth is kind of known for saying that Van Halen put the Ricky Ricardo rumba into rock and roll.
Yeah, it swings. And the thing about that song is that it's got the slightly silly lyric, it's a party and all that, but there's some serious music happening behind that. Like, that guitar and the drums are serious. Like, it's played so well. It's like virtuosic playing, but at the same time, it doesn't sound like Weather Report or like jazz or, quote, serious music. It's like the veneer over the top is like there's a hot chick with the phys ed sash dancing on the table. You know what I mean? But meanwhile, there's like this incredible music happening, rock music,
Yeah. Did you ever get to see Van Halen or David Lee Roth in concert?
I saw Hagar Van Halen on the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge tour, and Vince Neil opened. I don't remember too much about it, to be honest. I remember that I liked Eddie Van Halen was probably the best memory of it. And I went with my mom. My mom took me. I was, 13, maybe 14. My parents took me to a lot of shows like that. Cinderella, but that was my first, but not as good as the Van Halen. But the Van Halen one was outside. It was like I kind of said before, where I was like, great summer concert.
Is that the product of being an only child, or did your parents actually really like music?
They liked Van Halen, and they liked, they liked classic rock, both of them. And it might be that I was the only child. I don't know. But I liked music a lot by that point. So they were just like, you want to go? Yeah, that sounds fun. We'll go. So.
Well, somebody who sees you live these days will still see in Longwave that you're jumping off the drum riser.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Any influence from David Lee Roth on that one?
Oh, God. It's another one like the spandex, where it's like, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. Yeah, the jumping off the drum set now thing, I mean, I was looking this morning at all the backs of the old Van Halen record covers, and I forgot that on Van Halen 2, he's doing the split jump. And I looked at that and off the drums. I looked at that and I was like, there's no way in hell. I have no idea how he did that. I mean, I know he practiced. Like, you know, you read the Noel Monk book.
Yeah.
There's all these accounts of him practicing those jumps with those like 6-inch clogs or whatever they would wear in the early years. Like they would wear these like platform shoes or something on stage, and he would have to practice that and the jumps and stuff. And it was, I mean, how it's incredible. So yeah, yeah.
So no influence from DLR and that.
No, it's like it's like me. I'm driving. It's like David Lee Roth going by in a Lamborghini with that kind of thing, and I'm like sputtering with my little Pinto. That's the difference between the two.
Fair enough. And the other people that you said that you may email with some 80s metal stuff, yeah. You don't have to name any names. Are any of them in bands?
They were. It's Jeff from C-Ray, if you remember the band C-Ray in New York.
Yeah.
And Jeff Scheinkopf and Bill Molt. Bill, who does...
He animated the latest Longwave video.
Yeah, he does a lot of Longwave videos and other stuff too, other like films and stuff. He's a Los Angeles guy. But yeah, those two guys. Yeah, especially Jeff. Jeff has all kinds of pictures of him meeting Ricky Rocket when he was a kid, meeting Craig Chaquico, I think how to say his name, from Starship.
Sure.
You know? Yeah, it's just stuff like this, you know. So we send each other these things.
And then what was the gateway band for you when it came to, you know, growing up into the alternative music? Was it REM like you said before?
Yeah, it was being in a band with this one guy. I was just playing guitar in the band. I wasn't singing. And the singer in the band liked REM, the Smiths, the Pixies. I think maybe Doolittle was the record for the Pixies that I started with. It's funny because now I would maybe prefer Surfer Rosa and Come On Pilgrim. But yeah, he was the guy, the singer in the band that I was in when I was like 16 to 18 years old. It kind of changed my whole... U2, early U2 records, with the Echo guitar, you know, that kind of seemed like the next step. It's like you can play the guitar like this way a little bit. I wasn't as good as some of these shredder guys, but at the same time, if I got a delay pedal and I could play this thing, it was like, it sounded like a whole band playing, you know, it was like, it really backed up the singer and the song and the band that I was in. So it was fun to try and do that. So yeah, it was U2, REM, Pixies, Smiths, all the 80s, like kind of, you know, proto indie / breakout bands, you know, 120 minutes bands, The Cure.
120 minutes, yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how great to have, you could have had Headbangers Ball and 120 minutes. And a little later, like Adult Swim, like all these like things back in the late at night, like you'd tune in. I never really saw that you had to choose. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess where I'm going with all that is that a lot of the stuff that I'm super into now in my late 30s is the stuff that I was into when I was 12, 13, 14. Like you grow up and you try and distance yourself from who you were as an early teenager and stuff you like before you were a teenager. And then there reaches that point where you look at all that stuff and you go, there's a reason why I like that. So yeah. I'm curious if you got out of Van Halen and it like later became a thing that you loved, or you just never got out of it. You just were kind of quiet about it, that when you're signed to RCA, when they go, who are your influences? Because inevitably that happens in all your international interviews. You don't say Van Halen, but you kind of do want to say Van Halen.
I don't know. No, I always liked it. I mean, it would just kind of fade and other stuff would come to the forefront, but it was always, I remember making the first RCA record with Longwave with the producer Dave Fridman. And this isn't about Van Halen specifically, but I remember saying I really liked the sound of Hysteria, the Def Leppard record, and Dr. Feelgood. And I remember I thought he was going to kick me out of the studio. Like Hysteria in particular, he was like, that just sounds like digital distortion, like bad digital proto, in early digital recording. And I remember walking away like, I don't know, I kind of like it. Like, I don't know what to say, I still like it. And so yeah, I still, I would still stand by that. And so like the Van Halen records, they just sound better than a lot of their contemporaries. You perceive their contemporaries to be. And I think it's back to how good Eddie and Alex are.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the first few Van Halen records, they played that shit live in the studio. Like there was no like spending days on getting the kick drum sound in the loading dock area of the studio, which is I believe like the bass drum sound on the Motley Crue Dr. Feelgood record.
Exactly. On Dr.
They spent like a week like resurfacing the studio walls so it was more reflective. You know what I mean? Like no way. Those first two Van Halen records were all like really cheap dynamic microphones, like the Shure SM57s, and a really killer couple of musicians that played their asses off all the time at that time. You know what I mean? So they were like, so I think that those records stand up better than a lot of other records around of what you'd consider the same genre or something, because it had their, you could hear like their blood, sweat, and tears on it. Like it's humans who spent a lot of time playing together, and that, no click tracks, and it's just like, raw and fun. And that I think is another thing that people probably, it causes people to like the Dave era better if they do, is because they're literally playing together and having fun and not overdubbing shit out of the records.
Yeah, I respect the hell out of Dave Fridman, who you just mentioned. Not only did he do the great Longwave stuff, Mercury Rev, which I believe he was a drummer in, Flaming Lips, Our Mutual Friends, and OK Go, MGMT, great discography. But you raise an interesting point that he's the opposite of lo-fi. His albums are every morsel of tape or digital is filled with sound and reverb and all that, whereas that first Van Halen record is pretty much live. And at the same time, it's interesting to hear that he wouldn't like a Mutt Lange album like Hysteria, which is also super digital and a big sound.
Yeah, there's not a big difference now in some of the Dave, like when Dave goes for it on, like you mentioned the OK Go record, some of those drum sounds are enormous and big, and it's not a big step from that to Hysteria in my mind. At least, he would probably take offense to hearing me say that. But, to me, there's a great book called Perfecting Sound Forever, and it's a condensed history of recorded music. And there's a chapter devoted to Hysteria. And it's all about how it was like the loudest, the biggest sounding record. Like, it's like the Mount Rushmore of huge sounding records in the pop metal genre, until maybe Dr. Feelgood would have been the one after it. Like you hear something off Hysteria, and I mean, even like other successful bands, Poison, the first few, like, Theater of Pain or Girls, those records are great, but they do not sound as good as Hysteria. And so, yeah. But the one thing like the early Crew records would have is a similar thing to the early Van Halen records, which is that sounds like they're playing it live and really enjoying themselves.
That's very interesting. I've never heard of that book, and that's going on the reading list to say.
Yeah.
Wow. And I really never thought about that big divide that there could be between producers. I would have thought that Bob Rock's work would be universally loved by producers, and Mutt Lange's work would be universally loved.
We're saying Dave, Dave, I believe, would say he'd have a lot of respect for that. It's just that when I mentioned it to him, it was like, Like,
Understood.
that's not what we're trying to make here. And I was like, no, it's not what we're trying to make here. But at the same time, I can appreciate it. And I still love it from when I was 10 or 12, you know?
So tying things up here and all that, do you have a favorite Van Halen record? I'm going to guess it's the first one.
Yeah, I was thinking about that this morning because I knew we were going to talk. It's one of three. It kind of goes back. It would either be the first one or Fair Warning. And then as time goes on, I like 1984 better and better just because the songs. And like I said, I feel like you can hear them. I feel like 1984 is like a really great pivot moment for them where it still has some of the live feeling, maybe a little bit, not quite as much anymore, but it's not as overdubbed and slick as the Hagar years. So 1984 has like the perfect balance in a way, no pun intended with balance. It has the perfect balance in a way between like Hot for Teacher still is only like one or two guitars, but it's really fucking good and well produced in a way that maybe the earlier records weren't yet. They just had the raw power, or balls, So
it's
those are the records. What's that?
The best of both worlds.
Yes. Yes. Something you can really enjoy on summer nights.
I cut you off there. And then the last thing I'd want to know is, do you have a favorite Dave album?
Dave solo?
Yes.
I guess it would have to be Eat 'Em and Smile. Yeah, it would have to be the first.
And the last thing I'm going to ask you, have you ever attempted the Yankee Rose guitar intro in any way?
No, he's awesome, man. That was a Zappa thing, I believe, because he used to do that with Frank Zappa. Steve Vai is the guitar player, right? And so there was like a talking guitar that Frank Zappa would give him assignments, and he would give Steve Vai like just a recording of a normal conversation. And Steve, because every time you're talking, your voice has some kind of pitch to it.
Yeah.
And Steve Vai would like transcribe it, and like that note and that pitch, and then he'd try to play it. And so I read that the Yankee Rose intro, Steve Vai was uniquely prepared to do that because he had spent years doing this like incredibly nerdy muso activity. all to prepare him to go.
Let me roll up to the sidewalk and take a look. Exactly.
Oh man, what a great! I mean, come on! It's like, who doesn't like that? Oh, I gotta mention. Can I mention? What's his name? You know him. He's the press guy that I said that I know. He was James Iha's press guy. What's his name? Joe Civic.
Oh yeah, Joe, yeah.
I can either talk about this now or I can talk about this later, or you can edit it out. It's up to you. Okay. Well, Joe, it's not a bad thing. But Joe, I was writing with this. You might find this, related. I was playing guitar for James Iha for a short period of time, and one of the things we did was we went to, I think it was Boston, to do a radio thing. And it was just me and James, and I was playing, accompanying with James, singing and playing his songs. And sure. Joe Civic was the press guy for James. So Joe went with us. It was me, Joe, James, in my car, I believe, driving up to Boston. And on the way back, it was a great time. On the way back, we're driving back to New York. We're like maybe 50 miles outside of the city. It's like everyone's feeling like we're, happy to get coming home here. And Hot for Teacher came on the radio. And James and I both immediately, James was like, oh, fuck yeah. And we like turn it up on the radio. Yes, So, James Iha, also classic rock fan, big time classic rock fan. So James is like, fuck yeah, turn it up. And so we turn up Hot for Teacher on the radio, and Joe Civic's in the backseat, quiet as a mouse. We're like, what do you think, Joe? Are you a Van Halen fan? Are you, Sammy or Dave? Like, come on, what side do you come down on? And Joe was like, I've never heard this song. And we were like, what? And he's like, no, I was born in 1990. I don't know what year he was born in, but he was like, he'd never heard it. And he thought it was the most ridiculous song he'd ever heard. I was like, I guess, maybe, yeah, it's ridiculous, but isn't it awesome? And he was like, I don't know, guys. So you have one of the Smashing Pumpkins in the passenger seat. I'm driving, and I'm obviously a lifelong indie rocker, type, and trying to convince this younger music industry, at that time, neophyte, I would say,
Sure.
of the merits of David Lee Roth era Van Halen. So that was a night, and James was like, "You're crazy! Listen to this! Listen!" He turned it up louder, like as though we couldn't hear it already.
Well, hey, as I said before, I think maybe my favorite song of all time. I'm not going to tell you it's the best written song ever, but it would be tougher to...
That's not what you just said.
It would be tough to find a song that offers more qualities. I think they use that term for food, umami. It has that like extra factor and all that. It'd be tougher to find something like that. I don't want to hear Stairway to Heaven again. I don't need to. I've heard...
No, it's like food, where, you could have the... I've been to Tsukiji in Japan, the fish market. Early in the morning, you go and it's like the most delectable sushi you'd ever want to imagine having, or like whatever your favorite best food would be. But at the same time, sometimes you've had a tough day, or sometimes, and man, spaghetti and meatballs sounds amazing. Like that's the best thing you could eat right now.
And Hot for Teacher is that spaghetti and meatballs of rock. I don't think we're going to top that one, Steve.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time. When this all goes up, you'll be tagged and all that. But thank you for being you and your many years of rock.
Oh yeah, I hope we talked enough about David Lee Roth. I'm not an expert, but I am a fan.
Exactly. We did, and you did, and thank you.
I've told you now about the story of me trying to convince a younger generation of David Lee Roth fans. So that's my paying it forward, maybe.
That has happened many times on my end as well, believe it or not. So, often do failed results.
Yeah, it's all right.
Rock soldiers rock. Well, any hoodles, thank you for your time. And
yeah, thanks, Darren.